Welcome in, Slumpbusters. We are into the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. This game in particular, my co-host is deemed as the AFC Championship game. Joining us on this one, a very special guest. We've had him on before, Mykell Mathieu, the host of Courtside Radio, a director for the Good News Sports Network, and also another host of Don't At Me, a man with many pods, but most importantly here today, a Chiefs super fan to give us the honest breakdown. So Mykell, first question I have to have for you here is, we know how good the Chiefs are. We know how good Patrick Mahomes is, but in the middle part of the season, things weren't going great for the Chiefs. It didn't look like they were necessarily going to be in this spot, given the struggles that they were having on offense. What was the thing that turned it around for them? What do you think is the biggest change from this game and the one that they played against the Bills earlier in the season?
Man, to be honest, I think the Buffalo Bills are facing off against a brand new team pretty much. Chris Jones didn't play in the game. Charvarius Ward, the starting corner, didn't play in the game. Melvin Ingram was on the Steelers at the time. Daniel Sorensen played about 90% of the snaps. And, all of us Chiefs fans, we have something to say about Daniel Sorensen. And the Chiefs offensively, we're trying to figure out who's another guy we can trust other than Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. It's pretty much a brand new defense with a team that's more confident. At the time they played in Kansas City, they were 2-2 at that time, underperforming at the time, and now they've been on a roll. The offense is looking great. You don't know who's going to get the ball, and I'm telling you now, look out for the X Factor, Jerick McKinnon, who had a great Week 18 game. He had a great game last week versus the Steelers. He is Damian Williams. What Damian Williams was for those years and the year we won the Super Bowl, he is that guy, a guy that can make a big play out of the backfield. No disrespect to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams, but they don't have the burst and speed that Jerick McKinnon have. I think the Bills are going against a brand new team. And yeah, they lost 38-20, but man, the game was much closer than the score showed.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the defense, because that's the thing I'm most fascinated by going into this game. Because last year in the AFC Championship game, the only touchdown Buffalo had was off that muffed punt. Mm-hmm. So the Chiefs held them to like 3 points on their first 7 offensive possessions. I feel like Buffalo's offense is as good as last year's team, even if the numbers say they're just slightly less productive this year. But what do you think about going into the matchup, Chiefs defensively against that Buffalo offense?
Man, I think that the Chiefs have to do their best to make them one-dimensional. So that means you can't allow Singletary to do anything running the ball. And they must stop Josh Allen, who had a very good game running the ball that first game. So if the Chiefs can make them one-dimensional, which they did last year in the AFC Championship, it's going to be all on Josh throwing the ball. And with Chris Jones back in the middle, Frank Clark looking healthy, Melvin Ingram and those guys, I think they can make it tough. Look out for Willie Gay on defense. He may be a guy that kind of spies Josh Allen, one of those speed linebackers, to make it tough.
I've been focusing on the slump for the Chiefs in the middle part of the season. One big part of that, of course, was Patrick Mahomes' turnovers. What do you think has been the biggest level of growth for Mahomes throughout the season? Do you think he's a better quarterback than he was even in his MVP season?
I think so. I think that he's willing to take the underneath throws, which he didn't really do a lot. Like, that's why he struggled so early in the season, because, and some of it was on the defense. He felt the defense wasn't up to par, so he needed to make a big play every time. Now he's willing to dump it down to, the running backs. He's willing to go to the underneath guy, and he's willing to take an 8-minute scoring drive, and I think that makes the Chiefs so dangerous, because if you just play back the way that McKinney has run the last 2 weeks, he's going to run the ball. The way that teams have been playing back, he's taking the underneath to Pringle and McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson, while everybody are looking out for Tyreek deep. So I think that his growth shows that you can always get better, even when you're a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
It looks like Micah Hyde is the best defensive player on either team in this matchup. Like, he has been amazing this season, second team All-Pro.
Yeah.
And he had 2 picks against the Patriots. So if they shadow Tyreek Hill with Micah Hyde deep, does that mean it's all on Kelce, or does that mean it's more McKinnon, Byron Pringle, Robinson, those guys stepping up for Kansas City going into this.
Yeah, it's going to take everyone, man. It's going to take the entire team. They're without Tre'Davious White, which is big because he was a guy who shadowed Tyreek earlier in the season. But no, I think it's going to be, you're going to see some Pringle. You're going to get some catches from the backs. You're going to see McCole Hartman with some gadget plays. Hey, you might even get an offensive lineman to catch another touchdown. Yeah, I just think the Chiefs are going to attack in so many different ways. So I'm curious to see how the Bills will adjust because early in the year, I don't think Pat had the confidence in the other guys like he does now.
Will we see a punter or field goal kicker on this coming game?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that each defense is going to get some stops here and there. And it's going to come down to that, which defense can get the stops, the turnovers. When the Chiefs played earlier, Pringle fumbled a kick return, which gave the Bills an extra possession. Tyreek Hill dropped an easy pass that led to a pick six. So that they won the turnover battle. But I think the Chiefs are going to really make sure that they try to win that turnover battle. But both defenses are going to get some stops.
Are you interested going into this game by what the Kansas City Chiefs are doing on the front four? You mentioned Chris Jones is back. Frank Clark, I like to call him the plumber because Frank Clark sounds like a plumber's name. Are you interested to see what that looks like going up against the Bills, who've had a fine offensive line this year, but you mentioned stopping the run's a big deal. So does that start with those two guys who I think combined had like 4 sacks when they played in the playoffs last year?
No, yeah, and another name you have to throw in the hat who's been playing amazing for the Chiefs is Melvin Ingram, who's trying to win himself a Super Bowl and possibly another year with the Chiefs. So he's a guy to look out for. And I just think it's different than week 5 because you didn't have Chris Jones. And at that time, they were experimenting with him playing on the outside to where now he's back to his natural position. I think that if the Chiefs front four can dominate like they did in last year's game, that it can be so much tougher on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
I think I'm focusing so much on these previews of the last couple of weeks over offensive line, but offensive line certainly is important. And that was the big story of last year's Super Bowl, that Patrick Mahomes was having to run around like a madman to save that game. This year's iteration of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line took some time to really gel together. How do you think that they are at this point in the season going against a Buffalo pass rush that, while inconsistent, I would certainly mark in the top 10?
Man, I think the O-line is going to be all right. If you saw the Steeler game, they did a lot of chipping like TJ Watt and some of their other pass rushers. I think you'll kind of see some of the same if it becomes an issue. The screen game, I'm like, oh my God, Andy Reid, where has the screen game been? He finally brought it out last week. So you're going to see some of that to offset some of the pass rush. But I think those guys up front, Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Andrew Wiley they're going to be okay, man. They've been looking really good, and it comes down to trust. Last year's Super Bowl, Pat didn't trust that O-line. So he was running around with his head chopped off, but now he trusted his O-line, and he's willing to sit there and take the passes that are given.
I have argued that this is one of Andy Reid's finest coaching jobs this year by the way that they took that troubles at the start of the year with the turnovers and then started using the running backs in the passing game more, committed to McKinnon later on in the season and what was at the time Williams, and Clyde tried to get healthy, and Clyde had a fumbling problem at the start of the year and they kind of pivoted off that. What do you make of what Andy's done this year in retooling that offense kind of on the fly, like rebuilding the plane in the middle of the sky?
That jersey that you're wearing, when you have that guy on your team, you can make a lot of things up and get better, man. Mr. Mahomes is just amazing. And it was just a lot on him having confidence in the defense, having confidence in his other weapons. I think Andy Reid's best job was years ago when the Chiefs won, I believe, 9 or 10 straight games after starting 1-5. But he's done an amazing job, of course. And then I have to shout out Spags. Spags has done an amazing job with that defense. You go from giving up the most points in the first 5 to 6 weeks to the end of the season, you're giving up the least amount of points from week 6 to week 18. So it's just coaching. Coaching is a key part of winning, and it's the reason why I believe the Chiefs will win this game.
All righty, gentlemen, it's time to put our predictions heading into Sunday. The Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites hosting the Buffalo Bills. Kyle Ledbetter, I'm going to allow you to start this one off.
This is difficult because on Saturday, after the game where the Patriots literally did not stop the Bills a single time, the Bills got 7 touchdowns and then they ended the game with the football. Like, the Patriots could have stopped on every play and it wouldn't have changed anything. They still would have given up every single yard. I said Bills are probably going to beat the Chiefs. Then Mahomes had 6 touchdowns in the equivalent of 30 minutes of football time. I'm like, oh God, that's right. It's Patrick Mahomes. He can do that pretty quickly. So I have wavered ever so slightly, but I am still concerned by Kansas City defensively, and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes both, again, don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Allen obviously didn't do that against the Patriots, which I guess, the Patriots defense is fine, but I saw Joejuan Williams shadowing Stephon Diggs. So, take it with a grain of salt during that. But I do have to say, Mahomes had the one really bad interception against Pittsburgh that got me a little bit concerned, because I'm like, oh no, that was such an easy one to avoid. Because TJ Watt's a gigantic human being, but he should have taken the check down to Kelsey. And it was really difficult to go through that. So in a game that's so close, you try and find little things within the margins that change it, or a reason that goes, one team's going to be up 21-0 by the time we get to the second quarter. It's difficult. I don't want to emotionally hedge this one, but I'm going to have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs on this one. It's so difficult because I want to emotionally hedge this bet, but I can't. I'm going to hate myself if I pick against the Chiefs and the Chiefs win this one. This is such a close game. It's going to be super fun. The first quarter is going to decide a good portion of the game. It's going to be so great. And I'm going to take Kansas City to win because I can't bet against the Chiefs.
Mykell, the floor is yours.
The biggest thing was Buffalo winning early. I think that's going to actually come back to hurt them, because the Chiefs were able to see a lot of good things that they were able to do. And, just like Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs, that revenge factor gives you that added boost, especially when you're at home. So I think that the Chiefs defense is going to surprise a lot of people with Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Melvin Ingram, and those guys wrecking havoc. Nick Bolton, Hitchens, they're going to make it so tough on the running game and Josh Allen that I think the Chiefs win this game. I'll go out. I'll say a score 34-24. It starts off close. Chiefs get a late score, and that's how the game ends.
Ooh, putting out a score prediction on it. I like the boldness here. All right, guys. Well, I gave it away with the colors I'm rocking on this one. Bills Mafia, I am riding with you. Let's do this, guys. We got to break all that bad juju from the early 90s. We have to bust the slump of the 4 straight Super Bowl losses. There's just something in the air this year with Buffalo. There's just something I'm feeling. They're peaking at the right time. What they did to the end of the year schedule was phenomenal. What their defense and their offense are doing. I think the only team in the current playoffs that have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense. I'm buying into what Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, all these guys are doing. They have their full complement of weapons out there with Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, even game performances from Isaiah McKenzie. I think this is the year for Buffalo, and there's a reason that it's incredibly hard for a team to make it to 3 straight Super Bowls. Buffalo, it's time. It is time for you to get that playoff monkey off your back here. You beat Bill Belichick in the wild card round, beat Patrick Mahomes in the division round, and then get to the Super Bowl and just finally end the misery. In fact, face Tom Brady, break that 33-3 record on Super Bowl Sunday. Let's get that matchup going. All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed our preview, of course, leave a like on this video. Check out Mykell Mathieu, some of his Instagrams here, Mykell the PG on IG. We do have Courtside Radio, TGN Sports, and Don't At Me TV. A lot of handles, but all worth a follow, guys. Comment below your prediction for this game. Will it be Bills Mafia or will it be Chiefs Kingdom? We gotta know. From Juju Talk Sports, from Kyle Ledbetter, from Mykell Mathieu, stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we will see you next time.